Hi, my name is Brenda Kavanaugh. I'm an Associate Director in the Office of Research and Project Administration here at the university. The last time we talked about effort related to sponsored projects, and we touched on cost sharing in that video. Today, we're going to talk more about cost sharing. Cost sharing is the portion of the costs of conducting the work associated with a sponsored project that are not paid for by the entity providing the external funding for the project, commonly referred to as the project sponsor. There are 4 types of cost sharing. The first type we'll talk about is mandatory cost sharing. Mandatory cost sharing occurs when a sponsor mandates that the university match the funding provided by the sponsor, or when the sponsor states specifically in the funding opportunity announcement that cost sharing is required. Contrary to popular belief, when a sponsor indicates that salary may not be charged to a project, they are not mandating cost sharing. They are simply stating that salaries are an unallowable cost. Mandatory cost sharing is relatively rare in awards to the university. When it occurs, it becomes a compliance situation that will require that the university track and report the mandatory cost sharing. A cost sharing Form 150 found on the ORPA website is required to provide the necessary information for the university to track and report mandatory cost sharing. The second type of cost sharing we'll talk about today is voluntary committed cost sharing. This occurs when a portion of the costs of conducting the work will not be charged to the sponsor, and when we actually tell the sponsor that the university will bear those costs. We typically tell the sponsor in our budget or our budget justification. Most often, this is done when the maximum budget allowed by the sponsor is not sufficient to cover all the costs of the study, or when the sponsor prohibits certain costs in the budget for the project. An example of that is faculty salary. This results in the university covering those costs. Voluntary committed cost sharing becomes a compliance requirement with award. We committed to the sponsor that we were going to cost share. The sponsor made the award with the understanding that we were going to cost share, and now we must do so. Voluntary committed cost sharing also requires tracking and reporting by the university. The cost sharing Form 150 is required to allow us to do so. The third kind of cost sharing we're going to talk about today is voluntary uncommitted cost sharing. This occurs when the decision is made to cost share some of the costs of completing a sponsored project, but we've never told the sponsor that we will cost share. This typically happens after an award is made and work on the project has begun. Perhaps the PI runs out of sponsor funds to buy supplies. So supplies in excess of what were budgeted may be needed and charged to a university account. Voluntary uncommitted cost sharing requires no tracking or reporting by the university. The fourth kind of cost sharing we'll talk about today is third-party cost sharing. When a third party, often another university, is conducting work on a U of R sponsored project, but is not charging all the costs of that work to the project, that's called third-party cost sharing. It also requires tracking and reporting by the university. Third-party cost sharing requires a third-party cost sharing form, which is found on the ORPA website at the time the proposal is being submitted. This provides notification to the university that the third party plans to cost share and that they understand the tracking and reporting requirements. When an award is made and a sub-agreement is issued between the university and the third party, a post-award certification of cost sharing form, also on the ORPA website, is required from the third party each and every time they invoice the university for payment. This certification form provides the necessary information to allow us to fulfill our cost sharing compliance requirements. Compliance with cost sharing is an important activity. Therefore, ORPA may delay award setup or other necessary actions until all necessary cost sharing forms are in place. Thank you.